The Democrats have not just perfected the art of lying, but they have perfected the art of flipping the script as well. The audacity of their outrageous claims is astonishing, and yet, over and over again, they get away with it. The latest flip the script lie is that it's somehow Republicans who want to defund police. Certainly, some Republicans have their fair share of issues, but defunding the police is not one of them. From our establishment leaders to our patriotic MAGA defenders, all of us really support law enforcement. It's one of the few issues that we have in common. After all, we are the law and order party. But with crime out of control in every major city across the country, the Democrats can just declare it's Republicans' fault. Watch how they do it with a straight face.
More community police around the country, something that was supported by the American Jobs Plan, that was voted into law by Democrats just a couple of months ago. Some might say that the other party was for defunding the police.
You voted against that package, against that $350 billion, just like every other Republican in the House and Senate. So can't you make the argument that it's you and the Republicans who are defunding the police?
Well, Republicans? Come on. LA, Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, New York, all big cities run by left-wing cop haters, all defunded the police. Republicans had nothing to do with that. Here is who did. Democrats.
Many cities spend over 1/3 of their entire city budget on policing. But meanwhile, we've been defunding public schools for years in America. We've got to re-examine what we're doing with American taxpayer dollars.
We have this super aggressive police department, and they don't get to continue to just kill Black folks in my community and not say anything. So yes, defund your butts.
This is about true reparations.
Not only do we need to disinvest in police, but we need to completely dismantle the Minneapolis Police Department.
I don't have patience right now for people think that this is going to be a tweak around the edges type of situation.
Now, wait a second. I thought they just told us that it's Republicans defunding the police. You heard them. It's not. This flipping the script is not a new phenomenon. The Democrats have been flipping scripts for decades. Recently, we know Hillary Clinton conspired with Russian operatives to create the phony Russian collusion dossier, weaponized by a rogue Clinton-friendly FBI to try and destroy President Trump. What did the Democrats do? They come out and accuse President Trump of Russian collusion when all the while it was the Democrats cozying up to the Kremlin. Look at the Black Lives Matter Antifa riots. Hundreds of police officers injured. Not a peep from the left. Buildings burned and destroyed. Government buildings broken, ransacked, broken into, things stolen. And yet the Democrats don't say a word. Remember when they excused this destruction?
We would have never been having this conversation if you didn't have people take to the streets.
It is not, generally speaking, unruly, but fires have been started. There is a deep sense of grievance and complaint here.
Protesters are right to be speaking out.
A riot in Boston Harbor started the fight that amounted to America. It was the minority manifesting a desperate plea to be heard and for change, just like now.
The idea that you could have a few people who break a few windows and burn a few cars.
They don't know what to do with that emotion, so their response, especially young folks, is to lash out.
Lots. I get fired up when I just listen to them, but the moment a small group of destructors invade the Capitol, not even coming close, let's be honest, to inflicting the near damage seen during the Summer of Love riots. All of this is an outrage you just saw. Once again, the Democrats tried to pretend to be the law and order party now when it comes to January 6th, but they weren't back then. Now they want to accuse conservatives of being violent extremists.
A persistent threat of domestic extremism, domestic terrorism.
He has a base of supporters who are very anti-immigrant and white supremacists.
The top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
I mean, it leaves you shaking your head. The ultimate flip the script campaign is the claim that all of us on the right, everyone who supports President Trump, all of us, that somehow we're racist. Republicans are racist. Conservatives are racist, they declare. This may just be the most hypocritical of all the left's bogus but calculated claims. The Democrats are the party of the KKK. The Democrats' welfare trap is designed to keep minorities down. The Democrats claim that black people can't get ID or find their way to the polls. That's about as offensive as it gets, and racist, by the way. The Democrats' own critical race theory pushes the idea that blacks are inferior, and they operate somehow at a disadvantage, yet they call us the racist. They insist President Trump is the chief racist, of course, but have they ever listened to their own racist leader?
It's been harder to get African Americans initially to get vaccinated because they used to being experimented on. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. They picked 58 women, turns out, from the hood.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
Some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
There's no montage like that involving President Trump. None. They ignore every single one of those comments. He is the chief racist in charge. But there is a counter, folks, to their deceit. It's facts, and it's the truth. When I call Democrats anti-cop and pro-criminal, I can prove it by laying out their policies. When I call Joe Biden beholden to China, I can prove it. Just look at Hunter Biden. When I call Democrats racist, I can prove it. And that is what scares them so much about this show, the facts and the truth.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.